dangerous, so unpredictable, that even the galaxy's bravest explorers call it a death world. And yet, it's not only inhabited, it's thriving with life that laughs in the face of chaos. This is the unbelievable story of Earth, a world of fire, storms, predators, and impossible odds where humans don't just survive, they choose the danger. If you're new here, make sure to subscribe to the channel and show some love by giving this video a thumbs up. Now let's dive into this truly extraordinary story. The survey vessel Horizon Drift floated in the quiet edge of an uncharted solar system, its silver hull catching the dim light of a distant sun. It was a ship designed for silence and science, drifting through the stars to study worlds that had never seen alien eyes. Inside, researcher Nalik stared at the glowing displays in the central lab, his wide blue eyes narrowing with confusion. A long-limbed amphibian from the misty world of Tharna, Nalik had seen hundreds of planets in his time. None had ever puzzled him like this one. They had been scanning the third planet from the star for several days, but the data refused to make sense. The planet looked beautiful from space, blue oceans, swirling white clouds, large land masses, but beneath that peaceful view, the numbers were strange and disturbing. He leaned over the console and tapped a command. "Run the environmental scan again," he said, trying to keep his voice steady. The ship's AI, Unit V9, responded in its usual flat tone. "This is the 8th environmental scan, researcher Nalik. All data is consistent." Nalik rubbed the back of his neck where his skin had begun to prickle. "Driva," he called across the room. "Come look at this." Driva, a bright and curious analyst fresh out of academy, hurried over. She was from a low-gravity world, her steps almost floating across the floor. "More strange readings?" "Yes," Nalik said, "and they're not getting any less strange." They both stared at the main screen, which displayed atmospheric data. The planet had a thick nitrogen-oxygen mix, already a red flag. Oxygen was dangerously reactive. Any world with this much of it was a fire hazard on a global scale. Then there were the temperatures. In some areas, the same region swung from 60 to plus 150 degrees in just a few rotations. Nalik tapped a few keys and brought up the gravity stats. 1.2 standard gravity units, he muttered. That's well beyond comfort levels for most species, let alone something trying to walk upright. Driva scrolled through the report. "Wait, that's not all. There are signs of tectonic activity, major seismic shifts, constant storms, radiation spikes." "And yet," Nalik interrupted, pointing at a section flashing in green, "life." "Not just life," Driva said, voice growing excited. "Complex ecosystems, large animals, even sentient patterns, energy signatures from artificial structures and machines." Nalik's fingers paused on the screen. "That can't be right. A planet like this should be barely habitable, not a place for intelligent life." But the images didn't lie. New scans streamed in showing cities, satellites orbiting the planet, and signals, thousands of them spreading across the surface in structured frequencies. Radio waves, digital transmissions, video. Nalik tapped to enlarge one of the video files. It showed a group of tall, bipedal creatures walking along a frozen path while snow fell from the sky. They wore only light coverings and smiled at the camera. One even stopped to make a snowball and throw it at another, who laughed. "These are the ones who live here?" Nalik whispered. "They call themselves humans," Driva said, checking the AI translation log. "The dominant species. They've built cities near oceans and on unstable ground. Some even live in deserts. Or worse," Nalik added, switching to another scan. "Volcanoes, tornado zones, floodplains. Why would anyone live there?" "Maybe they don't know the danger," Driva offered, though even she didn't believe it. Nalik shook his head. "No, they know. Look at this footage. A group of them are riding down a steep mountain covered in ice. Others are swimming with massive predators. There's even a set of structures where lava is visible in the background, and they're taking pictures." There was a moment of silence between them, as the ship hummed around them. "I've never seen a species behave this way," Driva finally said. Nalik nodded. Neither have I. They watched a video showing a thunderstorm rolling in over a wide grassy plain. Lightning cracked the sky as humans stood calmly in the distance, some even dancing. I think, Nelek said slowly, we're not just looking at a dangerous world. We're looking at something new. Something that breaks all the rules. Driva raised an eyebrow. Do we classify it? We'll need to, Nelek said, but it won't be a standard classification. This isn't just another strange planet. This is something different, something bold. Driva leaned closer to the screen, watching humans build a camp near a steep canyon where wind tore at their tents. They don't just survive, she whispered. They thrive. Nelek stood up, his voice growing serious. Prepare the report. We'll need to send this to the High Council. They must be warned. Warned? Driva asked. Of what? Nelek glanced at the human child on the screen, laughing as they ran through a hailstorm. That's something impossible has happened. A species has not only adapted to a world of extremes, they've learned to love it. The Horizon Drift continued its silent watch from space. The only sound inside the ship, the quiet tapping of keys and the low hum of disbelief. The council chamber on the planet Heranos buzzed with quiet unease. Tall, curved walls of shimmering crystal reflected the flickering lights of hundreds of data streams flowing through the room. Representatives from dozens of worlds sat in hovering chairs, each one turned toward the center where a large holographic display projected the spinning image of Earth. Researcher Nelek stood near the center, shifting slightly on his wide, flat feet. Next to him was Driva, her arms crossed tightly as if holding herself together. Neither of them had ever stood in front of the full Interstellar Council before, and certainly never with a report like this. Council Speaker Torin, a pale-skinned being with slow blinking eyes, hovered forward. You are sure this is accurate? He asked calmly, though a faint tension crept into his voice. Nelek nodded. Yes, Speaker. The scans were repeated multiple times. We even used manual data. Verification. The results hold. He tapped a control on his wrist and the hologram shifted. Now it showed an active volcano with red-hot lava pouring down its sides. This is Mount Lormar, one of over 2,500 active volcanoes on the planet. Some of them erupt with enough force to darken the skies for months. Despite this, the native species build cities near many of them. This image shows a population center less than 30 kilometers from a major volcanic zone. A ripple of discomfort passed through the chamber. One representative, a feathered being from the water world Solari, raised her voice. Why would any intelligent species willingly live near such danger? Driva stepped forward. It appears that humans don't avoid risk. In many cases, they seem to seek it out. Their historical records show repeated rebuilding in disaster-prone areas. Floody zones, fault lines, storm corridors, none of it stops them. Nelek tapped again. The hologram changed to show images of large predators, bears, lions, sharks. Earth's wildlife includes dozens of land creatures capable of killing humans in seconds. Some species even hunt humans on occasion. And then there are the oceans. Their seas are filled with creatures larger than small ships. Still, humans swim there for enjoyment. Whispers echoed through the room. Speaker Torin remained silent, but his fingers tapped the edge of his control panel slowly. Driva changed the display again. These are some of the smaller threats. Earth is also home to billions of microscopic organisms, bacteria, viruses, that constantly attack their bodies. Many of these would be lethal to any other known species. Yet humans survive them, often without treatment. Another representative, with scales that shimmered in gold, leaned forward. Survive? Nelek gave a dry smile. Survive and more. They've built immunities, technologies, medical science that keeps them functioning in environments where most species would last less than a day. The room fell silent for a moment. Then Torin asked, And they are intelligent? Yes, Driva said firmly. Extremely. They've built vast cities. They have global communication networks, spaceflight technology, and even scientific programs studying their own galaxy. They've made it to space? asked a stunned counselor from the outer moons of Vashil. With gravity levels that would crush most of us, Nalik added. Their earliest ships were primitive by our standards, essentially controlled explosions. Yet they succeeded. The hologram now showed humans skiing down snowy cliffs, jumping from aircraft with parachutes, diving into deep oceans, and walking through blazing deserts. The council watched, stunned. These weren't survival techniques. These were hobbies. They call it adventure, Driva explained. They don't just tolerate difficulty, they celebrate it. These challenges are part of their culture. They reward bravery. They admire endurance. They find joy in discomfort. It is madness, someone whispered. Or, Nalik said, it's something we've never seen before, a kind of strength born from chaos. Speaker Torin slowly stood. His tall, thin form was trembling. This planet, Earth, it does not follow any of our classifications. Our highest threat level, Category 14, was designed for rare, unstable worlds where life is barely possible. What you're describing is worse. Nalik nodded. It deserves a new category. Level 15. That statement caused an uproar. Some representatives began shouting. Others demanded immediate safety protocols. A few looked simply stunned. Torin held up a hand and slowly the room calmed. And the species? The humans. What do we do about them? They've already noticed something, Driva said. Their entertainment includes frequent stories about alien life, contact scenarios, even detailed simulations of how they might interact with other civilizations. Some are peaceful, some are defensive. They're ready, in their own way. The silence that followed felt heavier than anything else. Finally, Speaker Torin turned back to the hologram of Earth. The planet spun slowly, covered in red markers that showed threats from volcanoes, storms, fault lines, and wild creatures. Still, the city sparkled in the night, and data pulses danced across the surface like a heartbeat. This is a species, Torin said slowly, that lives where no others could, and thrives. We must prepare accordingly. Nalik and Driva exchanged glances. They hadn't just found a strange world. They had discovered a new kind of life, one that laughed in the face of fear. Ambassador Doral stood in the preparation hall, staring at the tall display screen that showed a slow rotation of Earth. The deep blue oceans, white clouds, and scattered green landmasses looked peaceful, almost inviting. But Doral knew better. He had read every report, every environmental analysis, and watched every video. There was nothing peaceful about the planet. It was a world that tested life at every moment. Yet somehow the beings who lived there, humans, had not only adapted to those challenges, they had embraced them. Now Doral had been chosen to lead the first contact team to meet them face to face. Around him, the other members of the diplomatic group prepared their gear. 20 beings from 10 different planets, all handpicked for their ability to handle extreme environments. And even they were nervous. The suits they were wearing weren't just uniforms. They were specially designed environmental systems, built to withstand high gravity, sharp temperature changes, toxic atmosphere, and unfamiliar bacteria. Each one of those things could be found on Earth. Equipment specialist Jern, a large being with stone-like skin, walked up to Doral and handed him a tablet. We finished calibrating the gravity settings for the shuttle, he said. But honestly, sir, if the landing zone is as bad as the humans say, these suits might not be enough. Doral looked at the display. The humans had suggested a location, called the Northern Expanse, which they described as mild and open. But according to their data, it was already reaching temperatures that would be dangerous for most species. Worse, the area was home to dozens of venomous life forms and frequent weather changes. This is their version of safe, Doral said quietly. Imagine what they call dangerous. Jern grunted. I've prepared for acid storms, but I never thought I'd be worried about a flying insect half the size of my hand. We need to understand them, Doral replied. That's the goal of First Contact. We're not here to change them. We're here to learn how they became who they are. Across the hall, the team's translator, a thin creature with long fingers and sensitive ears, adjusted the audio equipment. The humans have dozens of languages, it said, but they seem to use one called English for most international Communication, I've studied their humor as well. It's confusing. Don't try to make jokes, Doral advised. We don't want to cause an incident. Medical Officer Vel, a floating jelly-like being, drifted over to the team. The biggest concern is stress. Earth's gravity is nearly 25% stronger than standard. That much pressure affects the body quickly. Everyone should limit movement and remain calm until we assess the landing site. Humans move through it like it's nothing, Jern muttered. They're built for it, Vel replied. Denser muscles, stronger bones, internal systems that self-repair in hours. What we consider a major injury, they call a minor inconvenience. Doral nodded and turned to face the entire team. Remember what we're doing here. We are not visiting a dangerous place. We are entering the home of a species that considers danger normal. We must respect that. Do not show fear. Show curiosity. Show patience. Show humility. A few heads nodded. Others simply stared at the ground, clearly unsure if they were truly ready. The hours passed as the crew checked and rechecked their equipment. The ship that would carry them down to Earth was already fueled and programmed for descent. Simulations had been run. Anticipated threats were reviewed. Emergency plans were set. As the launch time approached, Doral sat alone in his private chamber and rewatched a video he had seen dozens of times. It showed human children running through heavy rain and mud. They laughed, slipped, got up again. Some rolled in the grass. The weather was cold and wild, and they had no protection beyond light clothing. In the background, adults stood calmly, some even joining in the play. These were not creatures who hid from discomfort. They didn't just endure. It seemed they found purpose in challenge. A soft chime announced it was time. Doral walked back to the main bay where the team stood ready. Each one had their helmet sealed, their suits fully charged. The shuttle. Doors opened, revealing the docking platform and the dark blue of space beyond. Earth glowed beneath them, growing larger by the second. The descent was smooth at first. But as they entered Earth's upper atmosphere, heat flared along the ship's hull, making the entire cabin shake. The team stayed silent. Outside, lightning danced across clouds, as if welcoming them in the most dramatic way possible. Landing. Zone in sight, the pilot said calmly. Surface temperature 35 degrees Celsius, rising. Doral stared out the front window. The northern expanse stretched below. Red earth, low hills, and small clusters of green plants. Dust spun in the wind. And there, standing in the center of the designated area, was the human delegation. No protective gear, no shields, just light clothing, wide smiles, and children. The humans waved as the shuttle lowered. A few children pointed excitedly at the ship. Some of them were running. Doral could already feel the gravity pressing harder than usual, his body slightly aching as he stood. They look happy, someone whispered. They are, Doral said, stepping forward. They're meeting someone new. That's what they do, even when the world tries to stop them. The door opened. The heat rushed in. The dust followed. And for the first time, the brave visitors from beyond the stars set foot on Earth, ready to meet the species that had learned to laugh in the face of the impossible. The shuttle door opened with a hiss and a wave of hot, dry air rolled into the cabin. Ambassador Doral took the first step onto the red soil of Earth, his boots sinking slightly into the dust. The light was brighter than expected, and the heat pressed against his suit like a heavy blanket. Behind him, the rest of the diplomatic team followed, their protective gear gleaming in the sunlight. Despite all the training, all the simulations, nothing had truly prepared them for this moment. In the distance, a group of humans stood calmly near the edge of a marked meeting zone. They weren't wearing any protection. No helmets, no suits, just light clothes, short sleeves, and wide smiles. Children ran among them, chasing one another, their laughter floating on the breeze. To the alien team, it looked surreal. The environment, registered as hazardous on every sensor. Too hot, too dry, too many unknowns. Yet the humans stood there like it was just another sunny morning. Director Melton, the leader of the human delegation, stepped forward and offered a hand in greeting. Doral hesitated for a moment, then reached out, their gloved hands touching awkwardly. Melton grinned, unfazed. "Welcome to Earth," he said. Doral nodded, his translator repeating the words. "Thank you. We are honored to be here." As more introductions followed, the human children grew curious. One little girl, no older than 8, stepped closer to the alien team and stared up at one of them, a tall, scaled being named Rukar. She reached out and gently tapped his leg. "Are you a dragon?" she asked, eyes wide with wonder. Rukar blinked behind his visor. "No," he replied slowly, his translator crackling. The girl smiled. "You look cool anyway." There was laughter from the humans and even a few chuckles from the alien team. The tension in the air began to lift. Melton gestured to a shaded area where refreshments were set up, cold drinks for the humans, and sealed nutrient packs for the visitors. As everyone settled in, the two groups began to talk, exchanging stories and observations. The humans spoke openly, their tone friendly and relaxed. They asked questions, shared jokes, and even showed videos of Earth's animals and weather, things the aliens had only studied through data until now. Then, without warning, the ground gave a gentle shudder. A small tremor, just a ripple through the earth, passed beneath their feet. The alien team froze instantly. Alarms flickered inside their suits, warning of tectonic activity. But the humans didn't even flinch. One of the adults chuckled and said, "Just a little shake. Happens all the time." Doral watched in disbelief as the humans carried on, unfazed by what would have been a major emergency on most other worlds. He turned to Jern, who was already adjusting his scanner. "It's stable now," the engineer reported. "Minor movement, no follow-up." Still, Doral felt the weight of realization settling in. These humans didn't ignore danger. They simply lived with it, learned to move forward in spite of it. That, more than anything, explained how they had flourished in a place like this. Later that day, as the sun began to dip lower in the sky, the two teams stood side by side to watch a human performance arranged for the occasion. Local musicians played strange but pleasant instruments, and dancers moved across the earth in rhythmic patterns. The aliens were fascinated, not just by the sounds and motions, but by the way the humans smiled, clapped, and celebrated. In a world full of storms and predators, they still found time to create beauty. Doral found himself sitting next to one of the older human scientists, a woman with weathered skin and bright eyes. She pointed up at the sky where faint stars were beginning to appear. "You came all this way," she said softly, "to learn about us. But I think you're really here to learn about yourselves." Doral glanced up, then back at her. "We came expecting to study danger. Instead, we've discovered resilience." She smiled. "That's what Earth does. It pushes you, and if you're lucky, it teaches you." When the diplomatic team returned to their ship later that evening, they did so with a new sense of respect. Not just for the humans, but for the idea that strength didn't always look like shields and weapons. Sometimes it looked like building homes where the earth shook. Sometimes it looked like laughter in a thunderstorm, or a child playing in the dust. Doral stood by the viewing window as the shuttle lifted off. Below, the humans grew smaller and smaller, waving until they disappeared from sight. The ambassador thought of everything they had seen, the warmth they had felt, the lessons they had learned. Back on the diplomatic station, he prepared his final report. In it, he wrote, "Earth is not just a hostile world. It is a proving ground of spirit. Its people have not been hardened by their environment. They have been lifted by it. We came expecting fear. We leave inspired. This meeting will be remembered not for the risks we took, but for the courage we witnessed." And so, the galaxy shifted a little, not from battle, not from conquest, but from understanding. Earth, the Deathworld, had given its visitors something they didn't expect: hope.